Hello, and welcome to this first episode of NantenJex Talks. I wanted to have a simple, vlog style video to go out, because I might start doing a few more of these. I was realising that between balancing stuff on Source Gaming and reviewing and day job and all stuff like that, that it was a bit more difficult to get videos out on a regular basis as much as I'd like. So I thought having a few of these vlog type things where I can just sort of share my thoughts and stuff that's happening in the industry or something about Nintendo that I just want to talk about with people, or if there's any topics you want to hear my opinion on. I just thought I'd get some of this out there. I thought it might be fun. We'll see. If nobody cares about it, then maybe I just won't bother doing it. But I had something I actually wanted to talk about this time, and that is the discontinuation of the 3DS and Wii U. It's unfortunate. I mean, obviously the consoles have stopped receiving games for years now, but now the online is down, which really feels like the big nail in the coffin, the final nail on any sort of 3DS and Wii U support. And that's a shame, because for me, personally, I actually think, and this is probably a hot take, the generation that is the Wii U and 3DS, so both of them together, is probably Nintendo's best generation. Now let me clarify this. I don't think the 3DS is the best handheld system Nintendo's made, and I certainly don't think the Wii U is the best system Nintendo's made. I grew up with the Super Nintendo, that era between SNES, 64, GameCube. It is my childhood, but it is also what I think is objectively the best sort of time Nintendo's doing. Like, the Super Nintendo's got great games. The 64 and GameCube were obviously not as popular, but they both had amazing games. And the Wii U doesn't. The Wii U has great games and also doesn't have much. It kind of falls into that category, but I think just those three systems are a lot better than the Wii U was. And the DS is just better than the 3DS. Like, the DS has a lot of developers were utilizing the touchscreen, and that allowed for some really creative game ideas, and there were a ton of games for it. I think just Nintendo were pretty around mid-2000s were on top of things, but that's neither here nor there, because the 3DS and the Wii U as like a collective, I think is Nintendo's best generation. And my reasoning for this is that not only was it just fun, like, Nintendo might not have been releasing a lot of Wii U games, and the 3DS games might not have been as creative with the controls and stuff as the DS, but the games were still really fun. And on the Wii U in particular, they were all bangers, very high quality games. But also just from like a UI and a sound and a general vibes, I think the 3DS and Wii U work really well together in a way that none of Nintendo's handhelds and consoles ever really did. Like, the closest you'd get would be the GBA and the GameCube, which are obviously designed in tandem. And you can really tell, obviously, there's the connectivity aspect. The fact that both base models are purple, which is clearly intentionally done. They had some crossover games, like Nintendo Puzzle Collection in Japan on the GameCube, had then Dr. Mario and Panel de Pon Advance release as a collaborative title. So obviously they've got a lot of stuff in it, but I never really, I guess growing up, I think because connecting the GBA and the GameCube was not the easiest task in the world. Not many games actually utilize this feature, whereas the 3DS and Wii U felt a lot more connected. Their HUDs were very similar to each other. They both used the Mii's. They both had Miiverse eventually. And they both had a bunch of extra bells and whistles. The eShops, their equivalent eShops, were pretty much the same. There was just, you can tell, they had a very similar vibe with each other. And I adored that. I still have both, obviously. So my new 3DS is a bit scruffed here. I've got the Majora's Mask on, but you can see the paint is coming off, which is a shame. And Wii U gamepad is here. If anyone's been watching my streams, I've been playing Samurai Warriors 3 on it recently. And yeah, I adore both of them. But I think a big part of that is because they came out at the right time for me. So the 3DS came out when I was in college, which I guess in America would be like senior in high school. And then the Wii U came out right before I went to university, when I was just taking like a gap year. And so over my young adult life, the Wii U and the 3DS were my two consoles. And for the Wii U, this was perfect because I did not have that much time to play games because I had university, and the Wii U's lack of a lot of games made it really easy to play and enjoy every single one that came out. It's not like the Switch era where I'm like having to play several games a month, partly for review purposes and partly just because the quantity is way higher on the Switch than it is on the Wii U. And then the 3DS, it was the right age to start taking advantage of stuff like Street Pass. Like, I make quite a few good friends through Street Pass in my first year of university. And I still like going to events, and like when you're waiting in line to play a game that was upcoming, just, you know, flip open the 3DS, play a bit of Street Pass Plaza. In fact, like, if I open this up right now, it'll be on Street Pass Plaza. I had all of the games. I played all of the DLC for Street Pass. I'm pretty sure it's my most played 3DS game because of that. And I really, really just enjoyed both of these systems and a lot of the games that came for them. Obviously, on the Wii U side, a lot of them have started coming over, or I say started, a lot of them have come over to the Switch. There's a very few that haven't, from Nintendo anyway. And the 3DS, obviously a lot less because they had two screens, but there are still a few that have, Miitopia being the big one. There are rumours of Kid Icarus Uprising coming over. I hope those are true, because that is a game that really needs life on a bigger system without the awkward touchscreen controls. And it also gives it a chance for the really cool online features of Kid Icarus Uprising to come back up. And that was a kind of a big topic I wanted in this little vlog, is that Wii U and 3DS going down, with their online going down, means that a lot of the games that released on those systems can no longer access some of the cool features they had, or they're no longer the ideal ways to play them. For example, and I've brought these down here, Nintendo were big on releasing multiplayer games that were like required multiplayer in the latter side of the 3DS's life cycle. And so Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes and Metroid Prime Federation Force, while not beloved by everyone, obviously both sort of were hit by, not controversy, but criticism when they came out, Federation Force specifically, which I think is unfair as both are very solid games, but they require multiplayer to get the most out of. Triforce Heroes especially. That game, the criticism on single player on that game is fairly well deserved, right? So I think Federation Force, you can get away with single player, it's just obviously better with a team. And you can only do that locally now, which might be easy in some places like Japan, where this is all obviously made, but not so much over here. Ever since when I left uni, I had no one to play Triforce Heroes with locally anymore, and I never knew anyone locally who bought Federation Force, so I could only play those games online, and that's just not doable anymore officially. Obviously, Pretendo is a thing, and that's a good thing. Pretendo is allowing fans of the Wii U and 3DS to continue playing these games online. And that's great. That's like really good. And you don't need to hack anything. Some games like Splatoon, you can just play completely hackless. You don't even have to do anything to your consoles. You just have to access their servers and you can play. And if Nintendo's not willing to keep the servers up because of presumably cost, at least someone is out there doing it for preservation purposes. But the Wii U, I actually think, is less damaged by this. Obviously, Splatoon, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart 8, none of those can be played online anymore. But at least those all have some sort of analog or successor on the Switch. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoons 2 and 3. Like, at least there is some way to play a game similar to those. Outside of that, most of the Wii U games that didn't actually have online, most of the Wii U games, that aren't on Switch, didn't have a robust online system, and if they did have online, it was something like Miiverse, which was already taken down ages ago, which is a shame. They should bring Miiverse back, even if it was a completely unmoderated hellhole. It was a funny, unmoderated hellhole. But one game that I do think is really impacted by this is Xenoblade Chronicles X. Because Xenoblade Chronicles X is a interesting game. And if I cover the Xenoblade on this channel, it will probably be this one, because I think its history is rather interesting. It was very clearly designed to be like an MMO. And then that was too much of an ask for the Wii U, and maybe even for Monolith Soft, and so it was scaled back completely until it became this mainly single-player game. But it does have a multiplayer element to it. Where you can join other people's games and be part of their party and just help them through the story mode. I did it a couple of times when I was playing through. It's not a required feature at all, and I don't know how many people actually did it, but it was a cool feature. Send your version of Cross to another game and play through someone's game. It's a micro version of what I think they intended Chronicles X to initially be when it was first put into development. And you can't do that anymore because the shop is down, or the online is down. And that sucks because X isn't on modern platforms, isn't on the Switch. Everyone wants X to be ported to the Switch. I do think they're going to be remaking X rather than porting X. But that also raises a question of, like, if they remake X, will they just turn it into a single-player stuff? Or will it be a more faithful remake where they keep all the multiplayer stuff? Or maybe they're even going to remake it into the MMO that they initially intended it to be. That would be interesting. But yeah, because there's no way to do that anymore, a lot of cool features in Xenoblade Chronicles X are just no longer available. And another game, this one time on the 3DS, that suffers from its online being gone, is Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem Awakening, specifically, took full advantage of the 3DS's ability to use Spot Pass and Street Pass to have really cool battles, custom optional battles. The Spot Pass is the main one to focus on, because Street Pass will still work. But Spot Pass was like mini free DLC for Fire Emblem Awakening. So you had the paid DLC, where you would fight armies based on the other Fire Emblem protagonists from before, and then if you beat them, you'd get that character, and they had custom artwork, and they were whatever class it was. You could get every protagonist, and then a couple of extras like Pala and Est and Catria, and that was cool. That was all cool. That was all paid DLC though. But if you wanted to get many other popular characters from Fire Emblem's history, you could get it through Spot Pass. They would run like events and downloads where, kind of like Mystery Gift, I guess, from Pokemon, where you could download this custom battle and fight like Camu's army. And then if you beat him, you'd get Camu, and his portrait would just be whatever from like Shadow Dragon on the DS. And he would be a generic Paladin. I actually don't know if it was Paladin or Great Knight. I'm going to assume Paladin. He'd be a generic Paladin class. But if you were a big Camu fan, if you wanted to train him up, you could get him through Spot Pass. And the problem here is that because these were all downloaded, unless you already downloaded all the Spot Pass data, like I'm assuming I have, I'm actually not sure because it's been so long since I played Awakening. But assuming you have, then you've got access to it. But if you were playing Awakening for the first time this year, you would just not have access to a good like 90 units, because I'm pretty sure they did like 10 from each game or something like that. And that sucks. Obviously there's plenty of units to use up and train. I rarely use the Spot Pass units because I focused on the game units in Awakening and then the DLC ones. But Awakening is a game that's kind of designed for infinite replayability, where you can constantly be training up your army and class changing them and doing this till they all get max stats. And that just gives you more content to work with. And you know, sometimes you just might want to have players Camu or Draug or Gordon or someone who I actually don't know every unit that was added to Spot Pass, but Lyn. Lyn you get through DLC, but Elowood then instead. And Hector and stuff like that. I'm just going to stop you right there. Editing Josh here, just with a slight addendum that I just wanted to add to my comment. Unfortunately, Draug and Gordon were not available via Spot Pass. I had a feeling they weren't when I said it, but they were just the first names that came to my mind. So that's a shame, but I didn't want to confuse anyone. However, one thing I do want to add while I'm here is that more egregious to the past characters not being available anymore because of Spot Pass not being around is the fact that in Awakening, the post-game paralogs were also part of Spot Pass. So the mission that got you characters like Gangrel and Walhart and Emerin and Priam as playable characters, they're just gone now. You can't access them normally anymore. Not even as paid DLC, which you also can't access because the eShop is gone. And that really sucks. This is the kind of content that absolutely should have just been there in the base game and absolutely would have in a more modern Fire Emblem. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there as well. Anyway, back to Past Me. And yeah, it's just gone. Hopefully, if they ever remake Fire Emblem Awakening, which, I mean, they may do in like a decade or something, all the Spot Pass characters are just included as like bonus missions, or they just bundle them all together and make it paid DLC or something. I don't know. That would be at least a good way to preserve it, because right now they're just gone. And Fire Emblem Awakening is not the only game that had Spot Pass in it. Animal Crossing New Leaf had Spot Pass in it. Theater Rhythm had Spot Pass in it. Street Pass had Spot Pass in it. And there were other little games that had it as well. And you just can't use any of those features anymore. And that's a shame. A real shame. This happens when you've got online stuff. It's going to happen to the Switch one day as well. I understand preservation reasons you want to keep it up there, but business reasons, when the Switch eventually goes down, I'm going to assume that it's because Nintendo's having to keep the servers up for like the Switch 4 or something like that, because the Switch 2, I'm assuming, will use the same servers as the Switch 1. That's just an educated guess from me. But it will eventually happen. It kind of has to happen, because they can't keep it up indefinitely. I mean, they could. They could keep paying to keep it up indefinitely, but they won't, because they didn't for the Wii U and 3DS, and they didn't for the Wii and DS. But yeah, it's a shame, because it feels really like the end of these systems, and their life, and just the real end of support for these systems. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about that in the first of these little vlog style videos. So let me know what you think about my ramblings just now. Let me know what you think of the 3DS and Wii U. How do they compare to all of the other Nintendo systems out there? Like, where are they on your rankings? Are you going to miss them? Is there any game that I didn't mention that you think has suffered greatly from the networks being taken down? Because I haven't played every game on the Wii U and 3DS. I just picked out some from my library that I could actually talk about. So let me know what games you enjoyed playing on the Wii U and 3DS that you can't take full advantage of anymore. And we can be sad about it together in the comments. But okay, and let me know what you think of just this general type of video. I'll probably label it something like NantenJex Talks 1, episode 1, or something like that. And then I'll do more of these topics when I know there's going to be a bit of a downturn, when there's something to talk about. You know, when the Switch 2 gets revealed, I'll do another one of these. Or maybe I'll just decide today I'm going to talk about 100 classic book collection. And we'll talk about that for 10 minutes. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.